Recently, a news story circulated detailing a PlayStation job listing that seemed to indicate Sony will be pursuing more multi-platform releases. The internet's reaction to this has been about as extreme as you would expect, and has led to a lot of conversation about the future of games. One layer of this that has been bugging me is a growing subset of people who think exclusive games no longer matter or have no value. It's something that I very much disagree with, and it's what I'd like to talk about today. First, let's cover what exactly started this whole situation. A job listing was found for a senior director in multi-platform and account management within PlayStation. As stated in the listing, the position will play a critical leadership role in shaping and executing the global commercial strategy for PlayStation Studios software titles across all digital platforms beyond PlayStation hardware, including Steam, Epic Games Store, Xbox, Nintendo, and mobile. This sent the community into a frenzy, with Xbox fans theorizing about what games they could be getting next, PlayStation players acting like the sky is falling down, and Switch owners still too busy finding bananas in Donkey Kong to care. But seriously though, the initial reaction to this news was as if PlayStation had just announced they went fully multi-platform, which is not the case. Nothing stated in this job listing is really anything new. PlayStation games have been coming to PC for years, and they've been expanding to Switch and Xbox with games like MLB The Show, LEGO Horizon, and Helldivers 2. The job listing is definitely a sign that more of that is on the way, but I could have told you that already. It's certainly not some proclamation that you will never see an exclusive PlayStation game again, like some of the reactions would lead you to believe. But regardless, it has caused an interesting conversation around the future of game exclusivity. I'm seeing a growing narrative that exclusive games are a thing of the past and aren't all too important anymore. Frankly, I don't understand this mindset whatsoever. Nothing I'm seeing from the gaming industry tells me that this is the case. I'm confused by how everyone came to this conclusion, and feel like I'm being gaslit by everyone so confidently claiming otherwise. I think the first time I ever saw someone of note floating this idea out there was Phil Spencer at Xbox. In 2023, he appeared on the Kinda Funny Xcast and said he disagreed with the idea that if Xbox just started making better exclusive games, their console sales would improve. He said there's no world where Starfield is an 11 out of 10 and people start selling their PS5s. It's just not going to happen. Ever since this statement, I've seen the tides turning, as lots of creators and people online start to follow this theory. I mean, hey, if the head of Xbox says exclusive games don't matter, he must know what he's talking about, right? As the years have gone on since that interview, we've seen Xbox port some of their smaller, older titles to rival hardware, before moving on to some of their bigger IP, to now being a fully multi-platform game publisher. This has been terrific for Microsoft, raking in millions upon millions of extra dollars in revenue for very little effort. They have dominated the PlayStation Store with their games, and it gives them a way to make money off a la carte sales while also pushing the Game Pass subscription model on their own platforms. It's the best of both worlds, but it hasn't come without its downsides. The Xbox console brand has never been weaker, with many assuming the next Xbox could be their last if things don't go well. But oddly, Xbox and their fans won't admit that these two things are related. Phil Spencer points to the Xbox One generation as the turning point, saying they lost the worst generation to lose. His reason for this is that it was the generation where a majority of players began building giant digital libraries that they would lose if they were to ever switch platforms. And yes, with backwards compatibility, there is a pretty big incentive to stick within the console ecosystem you are already a part of. Since the PS4 outsold the Xbox One by a large margin, it put PlayStation in a much better position as the PS5 and Series X generation began. Ever since then, Xbox has been pushing this narrative that exclusive games can't change their fate, and the gaming community has begun echoing it. But I simply don't agree. In fact, I would say Xbox's entire history and downfall can be directly tied to their exclusive game output. The original Xbox had the very tough task of breaking into a console market that was already pretty saturated, but they were able to make a name for themselves, largely off the back of their marquee exclusive game, Halo. Xbox's most successful generation came with the 360, when their first-party output was at its absolute best. And then the fall off began with Xbox One, where their first-party output floundered. Halo and Gears were no longer in their primes, and most of their other exclusive bets didn't work out. Eventually, all Xbox first-party games began releasing on PC day one. This meant the idea of a truly Xbox exclusive game was essentially gone by the time the Series X and S rolled around. So to recap, Xbox's best years have come when they had killer exclusive games, and their undoing has come amidst their weakening first-party output. But somehow, these two things are apparently not related. In my opinion, it's a cop-out to hide the true reason for Xbox's multi-platform move. In the late 2010s and early 2020s, Xbox went all in on two main strategies: studio acquisitions and Xbox Game Pass. But as it turns out, these two things are not a very good match. With a majority of Xbox users now understandably playing everything through Game Pass and not actually buying games, Xbox is relying entirely on subscriptions to fund their studios and projects. This might have been possible a decade ago, but after acquiring Bethesda and Activision Blizzard, it's just not sustainable. This is why you've seen the reliance on PC releases, and the eventual move to PlayStation and Nintendo. Xbox needed to find new revenue because what they had coming in was just not enough to support everything they had bought. It's not like there's anything wrong with this. Obviously, every company's goal is to make more money. But can we just be honest with ourselves about why this is happening instead of pretending exclusive games don't hold any value? It's of course worth noting that PlayStation has begun to go down a somewhat similar path, starting to become more lenient with their own exclusives. You still need to wait at least a year or so before you see a majority of PlayStation first-party games on PC. The exception to this is their live service titles. It's pretty much fair game with these. You can expect to see them on PC day one, and we know that games like Marathon and Helldivers 2 will be coming to Xbox as well. So yes, PlayStation is inching closer to a similar strategy despite their console doing very well. So surely this is proof exclusive games don't matter. Even the market leader is starting to move away from them. Well, not quite. PlayStation's crawl towards multi-platform tells us more about game budgets and how out of control they are than anything else. With game budgets now reaching the hundreds of millions, it's becoming harder and harder to actually make that money back. It's especially difficult when you are limiting the game to just one platform. Moving your games to PC or other consoles serves as an easy way to get some added revenue. As for their live service games, they need as many people as possible able to access the game to give it the best chance to succeed. So just like Xbox, the move comes down to money and wanting more of it. But I think this idea of just trying to make more money is a bit short-sighted. Is it worth the value your console loses? Would it not be better to just get your budgets in check instead of going against the core selling point that has gotten you here? Listen, PlayStation is in a very powerful position right now, and probably can survive without many exclusives. Honestly, they already are doing that. This has been a pretty weak first-party generation by their standards, and it hasn't affected console sales whatsoever. But that could change at any moment. And if it does change, how are you ever going to win people back if you set a standard that your games can be played anywhere? Why don't you ask Xbox how that's been going for them? The biggest irony of it all is that the company who has been the most protective of their exclusives, Nintendo, is doing better than anyone else. The recently released Switch 2 is the fastest selling console of all time, purely backed by Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza, two games you will never see on a non-Nintendo platform. Every time Nintendo gets brought into this conversation, I get told, well, they're just different. But why are they different? Are they different because they found some super secret hack that Sony and Microsoft don't know about? Or are they different because they held firm to their core values, even in the face of potential added revenue? Or maybe they're different because they aren't trying to make up for hundreds of millions of wasted dollars chasing live service trends, or billions spent buying up half the industry. PlayStation and Xbox can make all the excuses they want, but I strongly believe that their decision making has put them in this position, as opposed to any real trend against the idea of exclusive games. They certainly aren't doing it out of the kindness of their hearts like some seem to think. And this is the next major point I want to address. In some of the online conversations I've had, many of the responses seem to think I am shilling or angry at the fact that games aren't staying exclusive. After all, why should I care so much where people are playing their games? And the easy answer to that is, I don't care. It's obviously great to have more people able to play games they want without having to buy another gaming device. And for development teams, it's a dream come true to have your game game playable everywhere and exposed to more players. So while I agree it's better for the average gamer if exclusive games don't exist, I definitely don't think it's better for the console manufacturers. And that's why I'm so surprised to see them going in this direction. Because in my opinion, the loss of exclusive games is a serious hit to the value of your console. And to me, all you're doing by putting your games on other platforms is giving me more reasons to not buy your console. That's the part of this that has left me so confused. Because as nice as it is to get that extra revenue, you really need to be careful of what comes next. And you better be sure that revenue is big. This is where I want to circle back to the PlayStation focus. I don't know that I fully understand what value they expect to get out of Xbox. The install base is relatively small there, and like I said previously, most of their people are only playing games through Game Pass. How many Xbox users do we realistically expect will go out of their way to purchase PlayStation games? I guess Helldivers 2 is meant to give us that answer, but even then, we'll have to wait and see. The reason I say that is because there will be a novelty to having Helldivers 2 on Xbox. This novelty will help the game reach higher sales numbers than it usually would. We've seen that already with PlayStation's PC games. For example, God of War's PC version had a peak concurrent Steam player count of 73,000, but Ragnarok's PC release only managed 35,000. By the time Ragnarok came to Steam, it wasn't all that crazy to see a PlayStation game available on the platform, and so there was less interest. We're seeing something similar with Xbox games dominating the PlayStation Store right now. There is a curiosity that comes from seeing Forza on PlayStation for the first time, helping lead to the pretty incredible sales numbers that game has achieved. I fully expect the exact same would happen with PlayStation games on Xbox. Helldivers 2 will probably do pretty well, but would that same success translate if an older Uncharted or God of War game made the jump? It might be easy to say yes it would, but their PC history would tell us otherwise. Another angle of this that I find strange is why PlayStation would suddenly be okay bringing Helldivers 2 to Xbox in the first place. So far, they have been pretty clearly against putting games on Xbox, almost hilariously so. Sony refused to put MLB The Show on Xbox until the MLB threatened to pull the license. LEGO Horizon came to Switch, but not Xbox. And even PlayStation licensed games such as Freedom Wars Remastered, Patapon 1+2, and Everybody's Golf are being left off Xbox despite being published by Bandai Namco. So just to be clear, you're not willing to give Xbox those games, but you're willing to give them Helldivers 2, your biggest live service success? And by the way, they used first-party resources to make this port with their internal team Nixxes. So again, licensed games you had nothing to do with are off the table, but a first-party team port is all good? It's just very weird to me. Another weird layer to this story is the current rumor of the next-generation Xbox incorporating Steam support. If this rumor were to come true, and Steam is accessible on the next-generation Xbox, then all of Sony's PC ports would be playable on Xbox anyway. Why not just keep releasing your ports on Steam, and let Xbox users access the game that way? It would avoid riling up your fans by porting games to Xbox, and wouldn't directly benefit your main competitor as strongly. At the very least, I don't know why you wouldn't wait it out and see what ends up becoming true from this rumor before going down this path. There is also a common rumor that the PlayStation 6 will have a handheld companion. If this were true, then PlayStation would be competing with the Switch too. But so far, the argument for putting PlayStation games on Switch has always been that Nintendo isn't really a direct competitor. However, in this scenario, they absolutely would be. And on top of that, the novelty of a modern PlayStation game running on a handheld wouldn't be the same if you've already been putting games on Switch too, which is another thing to consider. And this is the main point I'm trying to make. Putting your previously exclusive games on rival hardware is not as simple as just making more money. There are consequences, some tangible and some perceived, that leave a permanent impact on the brand and console. So in summary, this new PlayStation job listing does not mean that we'll never see an exclusive PlayStation game again, but it is a sign of the way that the industry is moving. And while there are certainly some benefits to it, I can't shake the feeling that this is going to have big negative repercussions. I don't agree with this new exclusive game mentality from Sony, Microsoft, and many players. I strongly believe the inherent value given to a console by the games only playable there outweighs the potential revenue boost you may see from releasing elsewhere. But no matter what I may think, it seems this new reality is coming ever closer, and only time will tell how lasting the effects will be.